Okay, in this session, what we're going to look at is how we create a web page and put some pictures and video in it. So if you look at your the lab assignment, the website that you're creating for your new business, well, the first screen, also called the splash screen in industry, that's the opening web page, and this has some pictures, has some text. It also has a video. You can change the layout to anything that you like. I just want to make sure you have put in some text, video, and pictures. And that's the kind of, the opening web page of your business where you talk about your business idea. And then there are two other web pages. One, again, a web page with images and some text, and another one with some images and some text. These web pages are actually nothing but tables. So this web page is a table, and in the first row of that table, you've got three table cells. So in the first row of that table, you have three table cells. The first table cell has an image. The second one has some text. The third one has an image. The second table cell has some text. The second row, the first table cell of the second table row has some text, a video, and some text. And again, there's nothing set in concrete about this layout. If you want to have the video in your top row or some other arrangement, that's fine, as long as you put in some video, one video and some images and some text, you've met the requirements of that page. And then there's another page with product and services catalog, and another page with the team. So let's see how we create a web page like this. The first thing you want to do is you want to collect and place somewhere on your PC the images that you're going to use, and you may also want to form the text, have in your mind or type it out somewhere, the text that you're going to be using in the other four cells. And we'll come to the video in just a bit after we're done with placing some images and some text. So to begin with, well, you're going to open your Visual Studio 2019 and then hit Create New Project. And then you're going to type into this entry field right up there, ASP.NET. This brings to the surface all the ASP.NET project templates. You're going to use the third template here, ASP.NET C#. Although we're not going to put a C# fragment in this website of ours, but we could have, if you wanted to extend the website with programming, we could have. So we are simply choosing this this template. Except, like I said, we would actually not be going into the programming of this. So this is a basic website. All right. So now we click on Next. And it will give you a project name. You can say whatever you like. If you used this before, and then let's say my business one. Okay, and then you're going to create this project. You want to have empty chosen because you're starting out with an empty project, and now you're going to drop in the various web pages and other things that you want in that project. It takes a bit of time for that project to get created, but sooner or later it will, and then we can start with the work of developing the website. Okay, so the project got created, just took a few minutes, and now what you're going to do is you're going to, this is an empty project. It really doesn't have any useful files in it. It has a number of files for the purposes of Visual Studio to work, but those are essentially system files, and it doesn't really have any usable files, if you will. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to drop in a web page into this project. So you're going to do that by going to Project, Add New Item. And now you're not really going to be using that HTML page. I'd shown that in the first video to give you the background as to how the internet started. And it really started with simple HTML pages, but it has now evolved to a stage where we actually do the web programming in a higher level language, a more powerful markup language, which is called ASP.NET. And essentially, it's a replacement of the HTML elements. Now you use these ASP.NET elements, which are more powerful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a web form. Okay, and so you'll see here this web form 1. This Solution Explorer shows you all the files that you have in your project, and you see there web form 1 got created. Okay, so web form 1, so now you have an empty web page, and you can start to write content into this web page. So like I said, a lot of websites actually use the table, the ASP table, as the element, and you position images, text, and video into the various table cells. So many web pages are nothing but a table that spans the entire web page. So now, since we're working with ASP elements, so what you're doing is you're typing in into the content of the web pages, you're typing in ASP table. So that's going to bring a table into that web page. And I said that for every time you use these ASP elements, there's a mandatory attribute called run at, and set that to server, which means that this element will be processed at the server. Now, to make that table span the entire web page, what you're doing is you're setting width equal to 100%. And what this does is it makes sure that the table spans the entire web page. And now you can put in rows, which will have content. So, and a table need not necessarily have a header row. If you want to put a header row, that's fine. If you don't, that's okay. If you don't want to give a header row to this. So let's say the first row, we want to kind of follow this pattern. So the first row is it has an image, it has some text, it has another image. Now, before you can start to use images, you have to actually drop them into the web page. Whatever images that you want to use, you want to drop them into the project. They have to be dropped into the project, and then they can be used. So put all the text and images that you're going to be using, put them in some folder. For example, I have everything. I have a pictures and text folder. So I have on my desktop, I have a supporting pictures and images folder. Here's where I've placed the various images and text that I will be using. So this website that I'm building is about wonders of nature. So it's going to have pictures about animals and plants and flowers and mountains and whatnot. So that's my web page, Wonders of Nature. In fact, I could have also put a table row with just the heading. So if I did that, then my first row would just have one table cell. I can call it, it has one table cell. And the content of that table cell is whatever my heading is, Wonders of Nature. you could just have your business name as your first row. So this is Wonders of Nature. Okay, and then the second row. So the second row is the row where I'll have some pictures and some text in there. So the second row, if I go back to kind of the template that I have here, well, the second row has 3 table cells. So the first one has an image, the second one has some text, and the third cell has an image. Okay, now whatever images that I want to use as part of my web project, I have to first add them to the project. So you're going to go to Project Add. Now you're not doing an Add New Item. You're going to do an Add Existing Item, because we did the Add New Item when we wanted to bring in a fresh new web page into this project. But now we are dropping in pictures that already exist somewhere on your PC. So to add pictures, you're going to do an Add Existing Item. And then you're going to navigate to wherever those pictures reside. So Add Existing Item, your File Explorer should open up, and I have a folder in my desktop where I have these supporting pictures, text, and video. So let's say I'm going to drop some of these pictures in. So let's say I drop in the jellyfish, the koala, then the chrysanthemum, and the hydrangea's flower. Okay, so I'm simply dropping those pictures into into my web page so that I can start to use them here. Now I'm going to create table cells. So in the first table cell, I'm going to put in the first picture. So bring into that table cell is an ASP image. The ASP image is the element that corresponds to a picture. So ASP image, and then this is also run at equal to server. And then you have this property, this attribute called image URL. This image URL points to the file that has that picture. So here, when you type, the quotation marks, and then you'll see a drop-down list with all the files that are there in your project. Now we had dropped in some of these images, so you can scroll back up. So here, let's say the picture I want to display is the koala. Okay, and then one thing you need to do is you need to get rid of the tilde sign and that /, otherwise it'll lead to problems when you deploy the website. And when you deploy the website to the public web hosting service. All right, now whenever you do things, it's a good idea to just run it and see what it looks like. Hey, did you actually see a picture come up or not? So to run the web page, go to debug, start debugging. So what's happening behind the scenes is that Visual Studio is creating a local website whose content is what you just typed in. Okay, so we see here, we have the picture of a koala appear. Now this looks a little too big, so you may want to size it appropriately. So how do we size this? Well, so that's done through the image, through the attributes of ASP image, which are height and width. Maybe you want to give this a width of maybe 400 pixels and a height of. And of course, if you had to see that it did not get distorted, so you may have to play with this a bit to see that the picture was not distorted in any fashion. We're trying to reduce the size, but don't really want to distort the picture. So here is the picture. We may even have made this a bit larger. So if we wanted to make it a bit larger, maybe 600 pixels to 470 pixels. All right, let's run this again. All right, so the picture is a bit larger. Now we want to put in some text, maybe some text explaining this picture, and then maybe we want to have another picture there. And again, you can control the layout of your table as long as you put some pictures, text, and video in there. Okay, the second table cell is going to have some text. So, like I said, I've already put in that folder supporting pictures and text folder. I've already gathered some text about these things, and I put this in there. So let me just take those first few lines, and this will be the content. So this is the content of that second cell. Okay. Now in the third cell, I want to have another picture. ASP table cell, and I want to put in a different picture in there. So again, I've dropped in a number of pictures in my project. So here, to place a picture, you have to use this element called ASP image. You have to always state run at equals server. That's part of the definition, if you will, because these pictures are being processed at the server, where you have more compute power than you have in a client machine, which could be just a smartphone. Okay, so then you have the image URL property. This points to the file, the .jpg or .gl that has that picture. So here, let's take some picture here. So let's take this picture chrysanthemum, and you have to get rid of that / and the delta, and then you close the angle bracket. And you should, of course, use the same height and width that you had used there. So you can set the height and width to be the same as your first image, so that you have a balanced looking website. Okay, so now you see the web pages have appeared. The images have appeared. Now let's try, and you can do various things. Let's raise the font size, because the font size of the text is too small. So we can raise that. We can increase the font size of the text. So that's going to be an attribute. So you can say font size, and you get a drop-down list. maybe you can use, you'll have to see how it appears. Let's say you used X large. Okay, so that is your X large. You can also have actually controlled it with a number. That's also possible. So I could have set font size to be, let's say I set it to a number, font size equals 30. This might be too large, but let's look at how it looks. So as you can see, you can control it by number as well. So if I set font size equal to 30, and that's how it appeared. Now you don't want the text to be hitting the images. So therefore, what you want to do is to also put a padding around the text. So that is done through an attribute called cell padding. So you can have some cell padding. So cell padding. Actually, you can put that attribute there. I think the cell padding attribute, yeah, it's really at the level of the cell. So you could have said here cell padding equal to something, let's say 10 pixels. So we want to put some padding around the text. So we use this attribute called cell padding. And what that did is it actually put some padding around this thing, around these edges, so then they're not exactly hitting the edges. So that's the cell padding attribute. If you want more cell padding, you could have done that. If that doesn't look like sufficient cell padding, maybe we increase the cell padding to 20. And that puts some space around the text. So as you can see here, there's more text, more space around the text. Okay. Now, you see this wonders of nature that we wanted as a title? Well, that's not really appearing in the center of this. It's appearing, right at the end there. So to make this appear at the center, and also we'll have to increase the size. So we'll make its font size big as well. So first of all, to make it appear at the center, what you have to do is you have to use an attribute called column span. So this cell should actually span the three underlying columns that it has. So below this top row, you've got three columns: one for the koala, one for this text, and one for this this image. So you want the cell to actually span all these three columns, and then you want to center this text in the middle of the cell that spans all three columns. So to do that, and then this could be like the heading, that maybe the name of your company is something that you want to put as your heading in that first opening screen. So to make this span the entire, to make that cell wonders of nature, to span the three columns, you have to use this attribute called column span. Now you're always seeing from the drop-down list the various attributes that you can play with. This is a powerful feature of Visual Studio. So this means that you don't really have to remember these attributes. So you want to make that cell span all the three columns, and then you want to position this text in the middle. So that is done by an attribute called horizontal align. So horizontal align equals center. Horizontal align equals center. And then you also want to give the text some, make the text large, so that's font size. And let's say we gave it XX large. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so now, oh, you have to, anytime you make changes to the web page, you have to first do a stop debugging. So do a stop debugging there, and then do a start debugging. Okay, so now you see the title is at the center. So maybe we want to actually control this through a number and not use the XX large, because the effect that I was trying to get to was to make the heading text larger than the text in the cell. So we can do that by making the font size, set this to some number. Such as set it to 245. So now you see the heading text is now much larger. Now you also want to play with some colors. So let's say you want to set the background color of the table to something. So you can then go to the table element and then set the background color. So as you see a drop-down list of attributes for the table element, then choose the back color, and then you can even pick a color. So this is very powerful and flexible. It's allowing you to pick a color. So just click on pick a color. Seems to be a bit sluggish today. Okay, so the color palette will open, and now let's pick a color. Let's say I'm picking this kind of a maroon color. And then let's see how the web page looks like. Okay, so we see that a maroon color has appeared, and whenever you use a dark background color, you want to make sure that the font color is lighter. Also, you may want to make sure that you give the table itself a certain height so that it spans the whole web page. So you could have done that. So it's really a matter of playing with these different things. So what we want to do is we want to give the font color a lighter color, and then we want the table to have more height. So we can do those things. So let's do them. So let's give we're going to give the font color. We're going to make that a lighter color. So for the table cell, we have another attribute called forecolor, and you can apply the forecolor right at the table, at the level of the table. This will then apply for all the text within the rows and the table cells. So let's give the forecolor a lighter color, maybe a light pink, or maybe a yellowish color, something like that. So let's see here. So when we start debugging, okay, so it makes it easier to read because we had a deeper background color, so this makes it a bit easier to read. Maybe if we gave it a kind of a yellowish tinge, that might be better. So we can play with that. So we give the forecolor, which will be the color for the text, again picked from the color palette. So maybe a maybe a color like this. Okay, yeah, I think this makes it more easily readable, the text. Now you want to increase the height of the table so that it kind of spans the entire web page, and you can do that by giving a height to the table. You could have set the height equals some large number, 1500 pixels. That'll easily span the whole space of the window. Okay, so it spans the entire region of this window. But you see here that since we didn't set a height to these things, to the first row, so that's why it it doesn't look positioned right. So we can change those things. We can set the height for the first row and the second row. So let's say the first row height, we'll make that, something like 80 pixels, and the height of the height of the row, the second row, which has these images and everything, that should equal the height of the image itself. So the height of the image is 470, then we can make the height of that first row equal to 470. So this will just change the positioning of things. All right. One other thing is we have to make these pictures aligned to the top of the cell. So that's one other thing that we have, and that will bring those pictures up. So the other thing we want to do is go to the vertical align. So ASP table row, and so we're going to go to the vertical align of that and make the vertical alignment equal the top. Then the cells will all align with the top. So let's see this. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. I mean, programming, including web page development, is all about trial and error, trying different things to get the desired effect that one wants. So we do see now that these pictures are aligned with the top. We can reduce the width of or the height of the first row somewhat, and also we can change the alignment of this text so that it aligns to the middle portion. Okay, so if we do those things, so we want to reduce the height of the very first row. Maybe you want to make this something less. Maybe you want to make it 60, and we want to change the vertical align of the text so that it's more in the middle. So we can make that vertical line equal to the middle, and then let's see how this looks. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so the middle vertical line was not the best idea here, so I'm actually going to remove the vertical line in the middle. Instead, we can also control the spacing between the top of the text and the top of the cell by just putting in some line breaks. So just play with it. Play with whatever makes the thing look the best positioned and everything. So Okay, so this looks better. I have the text, positioned somewhere around the middle, and then I have uh, the height of the top row is not that great. You can reduce it even further. So I leave it up to you how you want to play with the display of the elements on your web page. The next thing that I want to show um, is the is to find the YouTube video. Okay, so let me do that. Let me so let me actually stop sharing this for a second. So this is a YouTube video that's close to my theme, and let's run this YouTube video. Okay, so this YouTube video is about preserving nature, and it's very much supportive of the theme of my website. Okay, so run the video and then do a right click. So just bring your cursor somewhere in the middle and just do a right click. And then go down here and say, click on this copy embed code. And that's it. That's all you need. Now you can close the video and go back to Visual Studio where you were building your website. So in the second row, so what we're going to do is in the second row, we're going to bring in this YouTube video. And the second row also, you can have some text, the video in the middle, text in the third cell. So you could have ASP table, you could put some text there. And another ASP table where you bring in the video, and so the video you can put in the middle cell, and in the third cell you'll put in some text. Okay, now remember you did that copy embed code. Position your cursor here in the middle cell between the opening tag and closing tag of the middle cell, and then simply do a right click and a paste. Back to your go back to Visual Studio and the web page, and then do a Control V or a paste, and then you're essentially pasting that code that you copied right there. You could also put in some text around the table cells on the two sides of the video, so you could have gone back to the text that you have collected. So I think I had some more text around. So just copying some more text and putting them in the table cells around the video. So that's the left table cell. And then I have the video, and in the right table cell, I can also put some text. Okay, now let's see how it looks like. Okay, so it gave us an error, which means there's something wrong that we did. So let's see where we could have gone wrong. So table cell. Okay. Aha. So this text was positioned in the wrong place. So let's see. So this text. Okay. So what we did, the error that we made is that this text should have been positioned between the opening bracket for table cell and the closing bracket for that table cell, which is that last table cell in the second row. And that's not what we did. We positioned it outside. So that's the error that we were getting. And now let's position it in the right place. And let's run this. And that's why they call it debugging, because even with writing, with the markup language, you're still doing debugging. Okay. So now we have, all right, so now let's make a few changes. Let's make the video a bit smaller in size. Let's make this text a bit larger in size. So things look better. So we can do that. Or maybe the video doesn't need to be changed in size. Maybe what we need is to make the text bigger. So what was the text that we'd been using before? Font size of 30. Okay. So we'll use the same font size for that other text that we put in the second row. So font size of 30 here, font size of 30 there. Okay. And if we wanted, we could also have reduced the size of the video a little bit. So maybe reduce the width. It's 1416 to, okay, it's almost. Okay, so if I reduce this to, let's say 1400, then it will be around 780. Okay, so let's run this, and you can play with those sizes to make sure that everything looks fine. Okay, so I just tried to reduce the video a little bit. I think this appearance is a bit better than the previous. Okay. So now you know how to create a web page, put some text in it, put some pictures in it, put a video in it, and all of these things should relate to your project and not what I have here. And it isn't, and you could have easily added a third row with another picture, like the like it's asking you to do here. But again, this is not a hard and fast rule. If you want to have a different layout of images and text, that's fine. You can go for that. But I showed you the first two rows. You can certainly add a third row with two more images and a text. Okay. Now, the website should also have two other web pages. So it's not just the splash screen. You want another web page with the product and services catalog, and so another web page, with the product and services, another with the management team. So let's see how to put another web page in there, and then simply how to link the two web pages. And once I show you how to bring in another web page, clearly you will be able to bring in a third web page. So let's see how we bring in a second web page into this. And we go back to our Visual Studio, and then we're going to go to project, and then stop the debugging first. So first stop debugging. You can't make changes to a project while a debugging is going on. So first you have to stop the debugging. All right. Then once you stop the debugging, and then you want to project, add new item. Now you want to bring in another web page. So just like after you completed the opening screen of your application, you want to bring in, let's say, the web page for where you will show the products and services. Okay, so this is another web page, so web form. Add that. And this again is a table. So again, the same deal, ASP table, and that equals server. And that equals server, and then the width equals 100%. The width equals 100%. And then this table will have as many rows as you want, one for each corresponding product. So one for a product, second one for the second product, and the third product, and so on. So in my case, the second table, let me look in my, so what I want to make the second table about is, I want to make my second web page about, see, my theme is wonders of nature, so my second web page is going to be just about flowers. So I go back to where I collected all the supporting images. So add existing item, and then I'm going to, in my second web page, let's say I'm just going to show various kinds of flowers. So pink flowers, purple crocus, and whatnot. So I have to bring them into the project. So now these additional images will have come into the project. And now I can simply have a table row. And here it calls for, the layout calls for, just show the image and then put some text for that image. So so the first image, ASP image, run at equals server, equals server, and the image URL, which points to the image file. So the image file is, let's say I'm taking pink flowers. .jpg. So that's the image file that I dropped into the project. Okay. And so I'll close this. And then I'll have the second cell, which will have the text about that. So I've got a second cell and some text. And let me go back to my So let me just take let me just take some text from here again. You have to make sure that your text is corresponding to the image that you put. I'm not quite following that discipline because my goal here is to simply show you the general approach of doing things. So I just repeated the same text, I think. All right, chrysanthemums. All right, and then let me show one other row. So I'm showing you one other row with again an image. So this is ASP image, and then run at equals server, and then the image URL. And the image URL is, so let me take that one. So the image URL is purple crocus. For some reason, it's not, I can type it out also. So type out purple crocus JPG. Make sure the spelling is the same. Purple crocus JPG. Okay, the spelling is the same. And now again, this should be actually within table cell, which is why that wasn't taking it. Okay, so the image element should be within a table cell element. So that image element is now within the table cell element. And then I can have another table cell, which has some text about that flower. So let's take some text. Okay. So we're taking some text and putting that in that second table cell. Let's look at how this thing would look like. All right. Now you see you have to size the things appropriately. So one could have done that. So make sure these images are of the same size. So let's make this width equals 400. Sometimes, let's see how this works. If it doesn't, sometimes we may actually have to find properly sized images to begin with. Okay, so that what does work. You do have images of the same size, but it looks like it's been compressed a little bit here. So I think we'll have to increase the height, increase the width, and also increase the height to more scientifically by actually keeping the aspect ratio the same every time we're making changes. But I'm just, again, like I said, I'm just trying to show you the approach. And so with your images, you might indeed want to make sure that you have maintained the same aspect ratio when you are doing any resizing. Okay, all right. Now now you want to again do the same thing. You want to increase the text size. So you would make the font size of the text larger. Let's say font size of 30. Okay, all right. So you get the picture, and then you can, of course, do the background coloring, cell padding, and all that good stuff. So just to go over the steps of that again. So cell padding will give you some space between the text and the edges, which makes the appearance look better. So you can have the cell padding, and this is going to give you some space around the text. So as you can see, if we did this, so it gives you some space around the text. The text is not touching the edge of the images. You can, of course, give the table a background color. So table, whatever background color you want to give that. Let's say you want to give it a different background color, maybe a bluer background color. And then, of course, the foreground color will have to change as well. It has to be a lighter foreground color. And I don't know, maybe you want to take a yellowish foreground color. And you'll see what looks appealing with the type of images that you're using and all the coloring. So that's really it's about making it more appealing. So this is, if you will, my second web page. Now the main thing is that you have to link the first web page and the second web page together. So where do you place the links? In ASP.NET, the link is called the hyperlink. So let's run the first web page. So we have to place links on this web page to the other web pages, like to your product and service catalog, to your management team, the two other web pages here. Often what's done is people can often put a menu panel at the left. So, and then in the menu panel at the left, you can put in either buttons or you can put in hyperlinks, which are basically links to the other web pages. So if we follow that kind of an approach, then what we have to do is we have to have what is known as a framing table. The framing table is the frame in which you then put in the main table and you put in the menu panel. So once again, the people put this in. If you want these buttons to be on the left side with hyperlinks on the left, then you have to put in a framing table. The framing table has one row and two table cells. The first table cell is that menu panel, and the second table cell is the original table, the main content table. So let's see how that is done, and the links can then be put in that menu panel table cell. So let's see how that's done. Let's close out of this. So what we want to do is, this is our main table, everything from here to the end there. So this is our main table, this whole thing. We want to enclose this within a larger table called the framing table. So we want to enclose this within a larger table. So it's going to be put inside a larger table called ASP table. Again, run at equals server. Run at equals server. The width equals 100%. Okay. So this larger framing table, that's where it begins, and it encloses that main table with the content. So the closing tag is after the closing tag of the main table. So that's the outer framing table that we're putting in here. That outer framing table has exactly one row. So there's one row inside this outer framing table. That one row has one table cell. So that one row, this is so the ending of that one row is going to be right at the end. It's going to go with the ending of that framing table. So this is the end of the framing table. So that's going to be the end of that one row that is going to be there in the framing table. The framing table has got two table cells. One table cell is where you're going to place the links. That's one table cell where you're going to place all the links. And the second table cell is the main content table. The second table cell contains the main content table. So the closing end of this table cell goes all the way to the end there. Okay. Now you can give some coloring. Oftentimes the menu panel, has whether it be with links or with buttons, it has a kind of gray color. So, and it also has a width, of course. So you can give it some width, 50 pixels could be okay. And this we'll see when this thing is done. We'll see how big 50 pixels looks like. And it has a background color. Because it's going to have links or buttons, so it generally a grayish background color is used for a menu panel. It's basically a menu panel. So we can use a color like this. Okay, now let's run this and see how it looks like. Okay, so you see here what we have done is we have created an outer framing table, and now you see here there's a panel on the left side where we can put in links or buttons, whatever type of widget you want to use. Just be consistent, of course. The length looks a little short, so too small. So I think what we'll do is we will increase the length to around 100 pixels. And if you wanted to give it a slightly darker color, that would also be fine. So if you wanted to give it, let's say, this color, that's fine. So now you can look at how it looks like. Okay, so this is going to be where we'll put the links, and this is our main table. And so in this case, I've shown you two web pages. So the main web page and then the web page which corresponds to the the product and services web page. I just have flowers there. So I need to have a link to that second web page, and that's what I'll put there. So here are the links that you'll put. The link is ASP hyperlink. The link element is ASP hyperlink. Again, you have to say here run at equals server. And the main attribute here is the so-called navigate URL. So instead of image URL, you have to say here navigate URL, and then point to the web page that you want to get. So the web page that we want to get to was web form 2. So we have a web form 1, and then we also have web form 2. So that was the second web page that we put in here. So just use web form 2, get rid of the / and the tilde, and there you have it. So now if you run this, oh, an error I made was I didn't give the caption, I didn't give the text. So that's why it did not appear. So that's the navigate URL, which is the file that it's going to go to. There's also a property for text. Text is some text that describes that second web page. In this case, well, it's simply flowers for me. So that describes that second web page. So we do a start debugging. Okay, so now you see that the flowers does appear, but again, you have to fix a few things. You have to make the vertical line top so that it appears at the top. So that it's more clearly seen. Otherwise, somebody may miss it if it's way down there. Or you can keep it there in the middle, but you do have to make the font size larger. So you can either position at the top. Even if you position it at the top, the font size should be larger. So let's do that. Let's make the font size so we can have here the font size is 30. And I want to increase the stable size as well. So I want to increase the amount, the spacing of that. So let's see how this looks like. Okay, so we have the link to flowers. And so if we just click on this, then we'll go to that web page. You could have also put a link here to home, so that takes you back to the home web page. So you could have done that here. Or you can also go back to home by the browser's back button. So flowers, and you'll have another link. One is to your product and services catalog, and there'll be another one for your management team. So you can put those two links here, and then you go to those two other web pages. Once you're on the other web page, you could have put a link back to home, or you can use the back browser button to go back to home. That's the same thing. So I leave that to you. So essentially what I've done is I've shown you how to build web pages with images and videos and text, how to have multiple web pages in your website, and then how to navigate to those web pages. So create a menu panel with links, with hyperlinks to the other web pages that you have. So from the main screen, the splash screen, you can certainly go to those other web pages. And once you're here, you can have a link to home, or you can simply use the back browser to go back to the home page. Okay, so this is all that you need. The knowledge in this video is actually all that you need to create the web pages in your website. The last thing that I'll do in this lab project is to show you how you deploy this web project to the internet so that it's publicly visible. So far, everything that we've been doing is visible only to you as a developer. It's not visible to anybody else. It's visible only in the Visual Studio environment, which is the development environment. Now we have to take these web pages and deploy them to the production internet environment. And for that, we have to use the account, the web hosting account that you'll get from smarterasp.net, our cloud computing provider. That's what I'm going to show you in the next video. I didn't want to clutter that with this because this is a lot of work that you have to do to prepare those 3 web pages for your business. Okay, so I'll shut the recording here.